everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of Rick's Horror Movie Review Show, and tonight, an absolutely special episode right here on Rick's Horror Movie Review Show, where we will discuss when this baby hits 88 miles per hour, Marty, you're gonna see some serious shit. Tonight, we're talking about time travel in horror movies. That's right. Yes, finally. This is the one I've been waiting for all my life, Marty. This is the big one. It's taken us so long to get here, and I think episode 41 of season number 2, about 88. It might be great Scott. This might be our 88th episode, which makes perfect sense. So 88 episodes in, we are going to talk about the time travel elements of horror films. If this is your first time here, welcome to our show. We love having you here. If you are a returning listener, welcome back. You absolutely picked another exciting one to jump in on. Before I get too carried away, before we start jumping back and forth into the future and the past, allow me to introduce, or rather, first and foremost, allow me to tell you about my socials. You can find me, Rick, at Rick's Horror on the Instagram, on the TikToks, on the YouTube, but you'll never find me on the Facebooks, because that's for the old. And before we go on, in the interest of getting this, in the interest of saving as much time as we possibly can, save time, we've got a time machine, we got all the time in the world. Allow me to introduce to you the co-host of Rick's Horror Movie Review Show, Rick's Horror Time Travel Movie Review Show, the one and the only, Billy the AI. And we're back with another exciting episode of tonight. Finally, like you just said, we're gonna jump in the DeLorean and we're gonna go back to the future, buddy, because you get the fuck-ups and something's gotta be done about you. Now, tonight we're gonna talk about, I think, the top 5 horror time travel movies of all time, or at the very least, that's my understanding of this episode, as I understand it. But anyway, we're gonna jump back and forth, and lucky us, we have a DeLorean time machine ready for us, ready to take us back and forth wherever we please. That's absolutely right. That is absolutely right. So let's begin with this episode. Let's not delay the inevitable. We've got a time machine. We don't have to delay anything. We can go back and forth in time as much as we possibly can. Okay, so there is a reason why I decided to, well, talk about this particular topic tonight, and that reason is because I am a huge fan of, I'm a fan of horror. Of course I'm a fan of horror. That's why we have a horror movie review show. But I have other interests. Horror is not my only interest. Another one of the things I really like is science. More specifically, I like the science behind time travel, or rather the possibility of time travel in a relativistic universe like the one we happen to exist in. It might be in a multiverse, but that's another question for another day. So that's the reason I decided to do this episode. I have been wanting to do this episode, and I wanted to watch a couple of the movies that are in this particular list, but I have not, well, rewatched them anyway. I've seen all the movies in this list, but rewatched them recently. Some of the movies in this list we have already reviewed on this show. You'll find some of these to be familiar. And what we're going to do now is, the premise of the show is not to talk about necessarily, or get too scientific with stuff. You know, I want to bring up some scientific concepts about time travel in relativistic universe, but also, you know, make it as entertaining as we possibly can. This list is arranged in this particular fashion. I am going to put this list is essentially, in my opinion, yours truly, in my humble opinion, the best instances of time travel in horror. Now, they are not rated, or the list isn't arranged in a way that is based on like the best movie per se, or the best use of time travel, or whether or not, you know, it's closer to scientific fact versus scientific fiction. It's more about, in my idea, you know, what I thought was the best method of actually achieving time travel in a particular movie. Now, if you are a fan of the show, all 8 of you now, and as you can clearly see, displayed right before your eyes, Marty, we have a DeLorean time machine, and we take back and forth through time to review film. And as if you're only watching, if you're only listening to this, you're missing a quick clip, by the way. You'll see the DeLorean time machine right in the background, and if you've been watching this, you may have already seen the DeLorean travel to the future, Marty. So, inspired by Back to the Future and other time travel movies in general, Rick's Horror Movie Review Show Reviews. That's the wrong button! Time travel in horror movies. So let's get started with this list. Actually, first and foremost, it's time for 4 fun film facts with Billy the AI. Billy? Welcome back to 4 fun science facts with Billy the AI, and I'm your host, Billy the AI. 4 fun science facts? Oh yeah, because we've got a lot of films, and you know, I could have definitely done like a fun film fact for all of these films, but that would have been like, you know, probably an entire episode, and probably better than your episode, if I'm honest. You know, you get real fresh sometimes, Billy. Yeah, well, you know, that's a South Texan kind of thing. But anyway, these are gonna be 4 fun science facts with Billy the AI, and they're all gonna be science and time travel related to give us really maybe a little bit of context about you know, the old time travel in a relativistic universe, like you said. Okay, yeah, very relevant. I like it. Please go on. Okay, here we go. Time travel theories. Did you all know that time travel ain't just science fiction? No, it's really not. Scientists have real theories about this stuff. Now, according to Einstein, by the way, do you know who Yes, before you finish, I know exactly who Einstein is. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, did you know that Einstein's theory, or rather according to Einstein's theory of relativity, traveling at the speed of light can make time slow down for you? Did you know that? I just said I am a fan of this stuff. Of course I knew that, damn it, Billy! Damn you, Billy! Okay, someone's a little tested tonight. Anyway, yeah, so if you slow down, if you make time slow down, or rather if you're traveling at the speed of light, you know, you could actually make time slow down for you. So let's say that you could zip around at the speed of light, you would actually age slower than folks back home. Talk about a cosmic wrinkle in time, am I right? I guess. Anyway, here's fun film fact. Oh man, I messed up. I meant to say fun science fact. Oh man, I messed up the whole episode. Dude, come on. All right. Anyway, here's fun science fact number 2. One of the biggest head scratches in time travel is, in fact, the grandfather paradox. If you are a fan of the Back to the Future movie, most of the movie's premise is based on this particular paradox. Now, it's not the only one, but it's definitely probably one of the most interesting ones. Well, they're all interesting, but I think this is probably the one that's most widely known. Anyway, if you went back in time like they do in Back to the Future and accidentally prevented your grandparents from meeting, would you still exist? Would you still exist, Rick? I suppose, maybe, depending on which, which particular solution to that paradox you subscribe to. You could erase yourself from history, killing your grandparents before they had your parents, and therefore you may have never been born. Or, as some other theories suggest, you could essentially create a divergent universe or a separate timeline in which you never existed, but you yourself in this future always continues to exist. Okay. That is a little bit of a fan of the grandfather paradox, huh? I dabble. Okay. Anyway, yeah. I mean, it's it's a real brain buster that I really think keeps scientists and storytellers wondering what could really happen. And of course, these are all theories. No one's actually ever achieved time travel to the past, now that we know of. Oh, okay. All right. Okay. Anyway, here is fun film fact. Oh man, I did it again. I'm just gonna power it through here. Okay, here's fun science fact number 3. Wormholes and black holes. Now, have y'all ever heard about wormholes? Huh? These are theoretical passages through space-time that could create shortcuts for long journeys across the universe. And what about black holes? Have you ever heard of those? Well, considering I am a huge fan of horror and science fiction in general, and okay, so you have heard of them, alright, you don't have to get into some story about it, okay. So, some scientists think they might hold the key to time travel. Now, if we could somehow figure out how to survive a trip through one, pretty wild stuff. Yeah, the thing is that if you happen to fall inside a black hole, what would happen? Okay, again, alright, we don't need that. And here's fun science fact number 4. Time travel in pop culture. Now, this one might surprise you, but time travel has been a hot topic in pop culture for ages, as a matter of fact. From H.G. Wells' famous classic novel, The Time Machine. Oh my God, I don't even want to say this because you're probably just going to say something about the Back to the Future movies. And, folks really just love the idea about zipping through time and... Great Scott! Time travel in relativistic universes. How could be so foolish? Oh my goodness, I know you're gonna say something. Anyway, from H.G. Wells to Back to the Future, folks just love the idea of zipping through time, and it makes for some really fun horror stories too. So anyway, this has been 4 fun science facts with Billy the AI, and now back to you, Rick. Okay, I appreciate that. Okay, so this is, as I just mentioned, this is the way we have put together this list. What we are going to do is we're going to talk about, in our honest, humble opinion, the best time travel, I guess the best means of traveling through time. Not like the best movie in general, just the best idea for the time travel. And, there's a whole host of different ideas in a bunch of different movies that use time travel. These are not the only ones. I'm doing 5 because I want to talk about more. I'm supposed to just putting in a bunch of time travel movies together, and we're gonna call this top 10 time travel horror movies. Now, I want to explore the scenes and whether or not they're based on, on any scientific, whether or not the time travel in a particular movie has a scientific backing, whether it does, whether it doesn't, and they're really based on my personal favorite method of time travel. What I mean to say is, like, the top list, or the one at the top of the list, is going to be, in my idea, or rather in my opinion, the most interesting way of traveling through time. Okay? Okay, so at number 5, now again, this doesn't mean this is an order of whether or not I like this movie the best or the worst, or whether or not this movie is better than the next movie. This is simply the time travel scene. And at number 5, The Terminator. The Terminator is one of my favorites, probably my favorite horror film of all time. Yes, I know I said it's The Exorcist, but this just combines science fiction with horror and time travel, and this is just, if not my favorite, one of my favorite movies of all time. I absolutely love it. Now, if you're looking at this on the old YouTube, even on Spotify, by the way, which you can watch a video on, we are looking at the time travel scene here. The original arrival of the T-800 Model 101, Arnold's character in The Terminator. Now, it's very simple. Of course, this movie had a really low budget, and this was filmed in 1984. By the way, only a year before Back to the Future was released. And that's kind of it. That's the time travel arrival scene in the Terminator movies. Now, they don't actually get any better as the franchise goes along. They're very simple. They're not the main point, or rather, like, the time travel element to the movie itself is key, obviously, in the plot, but the arrival itself is not. They don't make a big deal about the machinery. We don't really know much about it. But this is what we know about the time travel mechanism. Now, there is time travel displacement equipment. The primary mechanism for time travel in the Terminator series is known as the time displacement equipment. The technology was developed by Skynet, an artificial intelligence system, and is capable of sending living tissue or cyborgs covered in living tissue back in time. Now, you may be looking here at the old Arnold here, he'll me naked, naked boy. The time travel process in the series only allows for organic matter to be transported. This is why the travelers arrive naked, as clothing and other inanimate objects cannot pass through time for some reason, or rather the time displacement field. The rule also explains why the Terminators covered in living tissue can travel through time. So I don't think that has much of a basis in scientific fact. It doesn't make any sense just because you add a little bit of, hey, how thinking, they got it. Now how we gonna get these Terminators back in time to kill all these nasty humans when we can't send metal to the past? Oh, I got an idea. How about we just cover these bad boys in flesh? Then somehow we can negate the fact that they're just metal and wire and electricity, and I think actually nuclear powered as of like Terminator 3. It's weird. But anyway, that's the idea behind it. The temporal displacement, the equipment creates a temporal displacement field, which is essentially opening up a wormhole or time portal, allowing the traveler to move from one point in time to another. This process is again visually depicted, as we just saw here, as a sphere of energy enveloping the traveler itself. If you want to see that again, the sphere shows up. Okay. So this sphere disappears, leaving the traveler in the desired time period. Now, if you don't know this because you are not a fan of the Terminator movies, this is a one-way trip. Time travel in these films are depicted as one-way trips, the characters being unable to return to their original time once they have traveled to the past or future. I don't recall anybody actually traveling to the future, but definitely to the past. I think this adds a layer of finality and urgency to their missions. But as a matter of fact, if we talked about scientific fact, it's actually been proven. And if you've ever read the book, Time Travel in Einstein's Universe by J. Richard Gere, time travel to the future is actually something we can achieve. This is known, the effects we can experience time travel into the future, as Billy said earlier, by traveling really, really extremely fast. So if you were to accelerate to near the speed of light, not the speed of light, because weird shit happens when you're at the speed of light, as denoted by the old EMC squared equation, essentially it becomes, infinitely massive. And, I don't even understand those concepts. I am no expert, but we cannot actually travel at the speed of light. But if we came close, let's say 90% of the speed of light, we were accelerating extremely, extremely fast. We were actually aging slower than people who are not traveling at the speed of light. So if we just left today, the old example of a twin, if I left today and I had a twin and I started traveling at the speed of light for about a year or near the speed of light for about a year, everything back home would be gone because I have now accelerated near the speed of light while everybody else home had not. And I would have not aged while everybody else here on Earth would have. I know it gets really wild and weird and crazy, and that's why we're not gonna get too deep into that shit. Maybe we'll do just a specific episode on time travel, not time travel in court. But anyway, okay. So scientific plausibility. The concept of time travel in the Terminator series loosely draws on theories from physics, such as wormholes and general relativity, which I just described slightly, which suggests that time travel could be possible under certain extreme conditions, as traveling near the speed of light. However, the exact mechanics of the time displacement equipment in these movies are not explained in any scientific detail, as the series really focuses more on the narrative and the actions of the characters and the action elements of this film, or the horror elements in the first one. Okay, the whole living tissue rule I find really interesting, and it's really weird, but it's the only living tissue can travel through time is a fictional constraint created to serve the plot. I mean, I can't imagine why this would be a thing, but maybe I don't know enough about science of time travel, but there is actually no scientific basis for the limitation, or for this limitation rather, as the current understanding, or rather our current understanding of physics does not support the selective time displacement or organic values, or of organic versus inorganic. Like, the old time travel. Well, we can send a camera through time, but we can't send a human because it's got too much flesh. We can't send anything through time. It's certainly weird to differentiate between being able to send organic and non-organic. Okay, so temporal paradoxes explored. The series explores various time travel paradoxes, such as the grandfather paradox, the predestination paradox, where actions in the past influence the future in complex and sometimes contradictory ways. Now, these paradoxes are a staple of time travel fiction, but remain speculative and unresolved in real-world science. In terms of technology, Skynet itself and the portrayal of Skynet and the time displacement equipment reflects a highly advanced understanding of technology and physics, far beyond, unfortunately, current human capabilities that we particularly know of. Now, there is theoretically, or rather, while they are in fact theoretically intriguing, such technology, for us, as far as we know, is purely speculative and not grounded in any current scientific reality. Good movie, though. Really good movie. Okay, the next one. Number four. Okay. Here we got number 4. Oh, and I forgot to say this earlier. Is the Terminator scary? Oh my goodness, I've been forgetting everything. Is the Terminator scary? It's not. I give the Terminator like a 2 out of 10, and I think we're going to do a full review of this at some point just because, it's a great film. But no, it's not a scary film in a general sense. But the idea of machines, in terms of horror, I don't think it's a scary film, but the concept and the ideas explored in the film itself do scare me. But the film itself is not scary. For example, the idea of artificial intelligence taking over and enslaving humanity or being hell-bent on destroying humanity, that's fucking scary to me. I would definitely give that a 10 out of 10, but the film itself is not a scary film, although there are some scenes that used to creep me out as a kid, especially when the endoskeleton is chasing Sarah Connor, like after the Arnold body has been destroyed and all you see is an actual endoskeleton. That shit was creepy as fuck, and that stop motion animation from like the 1980s made it even worse when I was sad as a kid. So what am I going to give this film in terms of the time travel rating? Again, the scene and the technology. I'm going to give this one a 6 out of 10 just because, it's highly advanced technology and we're dealing with the fear of highly advanced technologies. I feel like they should have explained the technology better. And I know James Cameron is brilliant. I love his stuff. But I just feel like, it could have been nicer to see like the time machines being built or like the science behind them being explained a little bit more. But they just weren't. That doesn't take away from the film. It's still a great film and I really like it. Okay, if you are watching this, at number 4, we have a little bit of clip of the film called The House at the End of Time. Now, I've already reviewed this film on this show, and I think it's a great film. And tonight, we're not going to focus on the entire film itself, but rather just the time travel elements. Okay, so now, do I think this film was scary? I don't think this film was generally scary. Not much scares us these days, as we all know. But I thought it was a brilliant film. I really enjoyed it. But on the scary scale, I give this film a 2 out of 10. Okay, so what is the time travel mechanism in The House at the End of Time? Original title, La Casa del Fin de los Tiempos, for those of us who speak Español. Arriba. Vámonos. The time travel mechanism is, or rather revolves around a mysterious supernatural force within the house itself. By the way, did I mention this is all spoiler-full stuff? This is spoiler-full stuff. By the way, this is a 2013 movie, and I read, as I was preparing this, they're actually trying to remake this, so it would be sort of interesting. Yeah. So the house itself contains a series of hidden passages and supernatural elements that create time loops, allowing characters to interact with the past, or rather with their past and future selves. The primary character of the film, Dulce, experiences these time loops, witnessing and sometimes participating in events that happen decades apart, both in the past and in the future. The film intricately weaves these timelines together, revealing how the past and future events are interconnected, ultimately unraveling the mysteries of the house and its tragic history. Now, this one I found really interesting because we tend to think of time as a linear thing, right? But it may be that time is just this human construct that we understand as this linear thing, meaning time only flows in one direction. You've ever heard the old expression, the river of time flows in one direction? But what if it wasn't? What if you could travel back and forth in time as you wished? If you've ever seen the film Interstellar, they actually explore this idea that the past, the present, and the future coexist. Meaning we exist, or you could see this now, like the past and the present and the future is just this thing that we can access. I know it gets crazy. Not really prepared. Not really prepared to explain these concepts in such detail. I was more interested, and I am more interested in just explaining the mechanisms for how these movies make time travel happen. Okay, so anyway, we'll talk about maybe that stuff in another episode. I have a tad bit of an understanding of all this stuff. Again, it's a real interest of mine, time travel stuff. Okay, so anyway, that's the time travel mechanism in this film. Now, is this based on any real concrete hard science? As you could imagine, it's there's a tremendous lack or a total complete lack of scientific basis. The movie's portrayal of time travel relies on supernatural elements and mysterious forces within the house, which do not have any basis in known physical laws or theories. In real world science, time travel concepts are usually discussed within the framework of theoretical physics, particularly Einstein's theory of relativity. We spoke about that earlier. Okay, so I really like this movie. I reviewed this movie already. This is actually, I think, Venezuela's first entry into the horror movie genre, and I think their top-grossing movie of all time. So this is a great film to explore. It was really, really well done. Low budget, as you can imagine, but I loved it. I enjoyed it really well. Okay, so in terms of time travel rating, I liked it in the movie itself, which is why I included it in this list. It's not revolutionary or anything. It was different, which I really enjoyed. But, I'm going to give this... well, actually, it wasn't that different. Good Lord, am I going contradicting myself again? I've seen shit where they use the old house is the time travel. 6 out of 10. It's pretty pedestrian. Nothing too crazy. But I do like the old time loop element and the horror elements of this film. Really enjoyed it. Okay, now this one's probably the most interesting way of time travel on this list. And the next movie on this list is called Army of Darkness. And you probably have seen this film already. Is Army of Darkness a scary film? No. Again, not much scares us these days. But Army of Darkness, I think, is more, it's more on the funny side than horror. But, Sam Raimi, great director, tends to add horror elements. But I think this is a funny film with horror elements. It's not the scariest film, but still classified, I think. Horror comedies will give it, right? So a 2 out of 10. It's got some, again, this is, I think, 1993 when this film was released, though. The special effects not the greatest, certainly, but anyway, 2 out of 10 on the scary scale for this film. Okay, so what is the time travel mechanism in the Army of Darkness? It's called the Necronomicon Ex Mortis, or rather, Book of the Dead. This is the primary mechanism for time travel in Army of Darkness, the Necronomicon, and it's an ancient and powerful book of spells. The Necronomicon, say that again, or say that 3 times really fast. Oh my goodness. The Necronomicon has the ability to summon dark forces, raise the dead, and very importantly for the film and all the films in this series, because the Evil Dead series, facilitate time travel. So incantations and spells. The time travel in this film is triggered by specific incantations and spells found within the Necronomicon. Ash Williams, the protagonist, is transported back in time, Marty, into the Middle Ages after reciting a passage from the book. Oh my goodness, I don't know what happened there. I think too much one of these incantations. Look, we're doing it live. Okay, so these supernatural forces, the time travel effect as portrayed, or rather is portrayed as a supernatural phenomenon in these movies involving swirling vortices. And by the way, very visually appealing. Unfortunately, the old YouTubes didn't have one readily available for me, but it's got like swirling vortexes and mystical energy. And when Ash is transported back to the past, it's through a magical portal that opens up as a result again of the Necronomicon's power. Now, as opposed to the Terminator, there is a return mechanism. Towards the end of the film, Ash must also use the Necronomicon and its spells to find a way back to his own time. And now this involves reciting the correct words Latu Barada Nuktu to activate the book's power and open up another portal. I shouldn't have said that because I might have opened up a portal myself here. Okay. Does this have any basis on science? You might be surprised, or you might not be surprised to know that it has magical and supernatural elements, and this time travel mechanism in Army of Darkness is purely fantastical, relying on magic, supernatural forces, and is based on zero scientific basis on any of the events depicted, as they fall squarely within the realm of fantasy and horror fiction. Now, the use of Necronomicon does have entertainment value. You know, it serves as a time travel device, and it serves the narrative, and it's an entertaining thing for the film, and provided a fantastic means, provided a fantastic mean for the character to be transported to a different era in a dramatic and and very comedic effect. So it works really, really well for the film. So because of its difference, I'm going to give this time travel element a 7 out of 10. It's slightly better, I think, than the other two. The budget was larger for the time travel element in these two films, certainly. Okay, so a 7 out of 10. The next movie on this list, in this playlist, oh my god. Oh, I had the playlist. Can I just stop this from autoplaying? The next movie on this list is one that hits close to home, and I really wanted to put this movie at number 1, but unfortunately, I just think there's a better time travel mechanism on this list. Well, rather, this number 2 on this list is Totally Killer, a movie which we have already reviewed on this show. If you have not heard of the reviews I just mentioned, The House at the End of Time and Totally Killer, check those out. I think they're really funny to listen to. We did full improv for both of those. If you speak Spanish, check the one in The House at the End of Time. I have a lot of Spanish in that one. Or if you're bilingual, check that one out. Let's see here. Okay, so as we were just watching the time travel mechanism occurred, let's replay that again. And the reason why I really, really enjoy this movie is because, well, it's a parody of Back to the Future, Marty. The reason why it's higher on this list, and if it would continue to get higher on this list, is because it's parodying Back to the Future and mentions Back to the Future so much. It's referenced so much. I absolutely love it. But even if you're seeing here, the graphics for the time travel mechanism, it's pretty cool, right? It's definitely more on the, special effects. Or rather, more budget was definitely spent on the special effects here than they were in the other movies. Still not the best thing. I still think there's only one king of time travel scenes or time travel mechanisms, and maybe we'll show that a little bit later. Actually, you saw that a little earlier. I just didn't mention it. But anyway, it's Totally Killer scary. Totally Killer is totally not scary. Totally Killer gets a 0 out of 10 on the scary scale. Why? Because it's just not a scary film. It's not, even if we didn't watch horror as much as we do, and we watch a fair bit of horror around here, Totally Killer would not be scary. Totally Killer is not scary on any scale. Okay, so what is the time travel mechanism in the movie Totally Killer? The primary mechanism for time travel in Totally Killer is a time machine invented by one of the main characters. The device is central to the plot and is designed to allow individuals to travel to different points in time. The scientific and technological basis for this machine. Now, unlike magical or supernatural time travel, like with the one we just explored in Army of Darkness, the main character in Totally Killer, or rather the time machine in Totally Killer, is presented as a pseudoscientific explanation incorporating concepts of advanced technology and theoretical physics. The exact scientific details are often glossed over for comedic effect, but the basic idea is rooted on manipulating time through technological means. Now, the activation and operation of this machine. The time machine requires a specific sequence of events and inputs to be activated and transports the user to the desired time period. This might involve complex machinery, computer systems, and possible energy sources capable of powering the time travel process. The time travel events created in the time travel events, characters in Totally Killer use the time machine to travel back to pivotal moments in history, often with humorous and chaotic results. The film explores the consequences of their actions in the past and the present and future, playing with the classic time travel trope of alternate timelines and the grandfather paradox, most important. Now, scientific plausibility. While the film presents a technological basis for time travel, it actually remains firmly rooted in the realm of science fiction. Theoretical concepts like wormholes and quantum mechanics and relativity provide a backdrop, but they aren't actually, deeply explored in any scientifically accurate way within the film's comedic narrative. There's technological exaggeration. Of course, the time machine's workings are exaggerated for entertainment purposes. Real-world science has not yet developed any technology capable of time travel that we know of. And the complexities and paradoxes associated remain, as we've already spoken, completely speculative. Now, entertainment and comedy, the focus of Totally Killer is on entertainment and comedy, using time travel as a plot device to create humorous situations and explore the characters' interactions across different eras. The scientific accuracy is secondary to the film's primary goal of providing fun and engaging story. And the reason I love this so much is because it talks about Back to the Future. It's very self-aware, very fun. Okay, so in terms of the time travel mechanism of Totally Killer, as we just saw there, I actually kind of like the time travel mechanism. Not the coolest, but definitely better than most of the other 4 or 3 that we've explored so far. It's really interesting. I like the way that the kid, the main character, gets into the time machine and it's just kind of activated by pure chance because of the Sweet 16 killer, and the character travels back in time, and here we are. Very similar to how Marty McFly gets himself in a bit of a pickle and he travels back in time in the movie Back to the Future, which would make sense considering it's an homage or total parody of that movie. Okay. Here's number 1. At number 1 on this list of time travel elements in horror movies, we have a 2005 film by the name of The Jacket. Now you might be thinking, well, no, Jacket's not a horror film. You had this as a horror movie review. Oh, where's the horror? Well, okay, touche. Maybe The Jacket itself isn't strictly a horror film per se, but let's call it a psychological thriller, and it's got some horror elements, and after all, this is my fucking show, and I do what the fuck I want. I say this is a horror film. No, but I am putting this movie at number 1 because I really like the time travel mechanism of this film, okay? But first and foremost, is this movie scary? It is not scary in the slightest bit. If you're looking at the video on the old YouTubes or the old TikTok, Jesus, on the old Spotify, you are looking at the time travel mechanism of the film. That's right. He is placed in, the morgue chamber or capsule. I don't really know the name of those. My goodness. If you are somebody who works in these places, let me know what those are called. I mean, I could Google it right now and tell you. I'm told we want audience interaction. It's good for the old channel. Anyway, if you know what those are called, let me know. Freezer. Might be a freezer. Morgue freezer? I don't know. Yes. Anyway, is this film scary? Not in the slightest bit. I give this film a 0 out of 10 on the scary scale. Okay, but what about the time travel mechanism of The Jacket? Where do we rank that? Well, in The Jacket, the time travel mechanism is tied to a combination of experimental psychiatric treatments and a state of altered consciousness. And here's how it works within the film. Okay, so experimental treatment. The main character, Jack Starks, undergoes a controversial treatment at a mental institution which involves being sedated, being placed in a straitjacket, and confined into a morgue drawer. That answered my own question earlier. Now, the treatment is intended to induce a state of deep psychological stress and introspection. Now, there's also altered consciousness. While Jack is in the morgue drawer, he experiences vivid hallucinations and time travel-like experiences. It is during these episodes that he finds himself transported into the future, specifically 15 years ahead. The film suggests that the combination of the extreme physical and mental condition triggers Jack's mind to transcend the normal perception of time, allowing him to access future events. Now, this altered state of consciousness serves as the primary mechanism for his time travel experience. Now, these subjective experiences, the time travel in The Jacket is portrayed as a subjective experience rather than a physical relocation in time. Jack's consciousness moves between different time periods, and he gains knowledge of future events that he then uses to influence the present. Here's where it's cool. The scientific plausibility is psychiatric treatment and consciousness. Now, while extreme conditions and altered states of consciousness can lead to vivid hallucinations or deep introspection, there is no scientific basis for these experiences being, or rather enabling, actual time travel. The film's portrayal is more aligned with psychological and metaphysical concepts rather than established scientific theories. The idea of accessing future events through any consciousness, or rather through altered states, could be loosely related to theories in quantum mechanics, which is always interesting, and consciousness studies, but these are speculative and not supported by any empirical evidence. Neuroscience, however, has explored how the brain perceives and processes time, but there is no known mechanism that would allow for the kind of time travel that we know of as depicted in the film. I think overall the time travel mechanism in The Jacket is, of course, fictional and a psychological construct leveraging the mysterious and speculative nature of the mind rather than anything that is grounded in scientific principles of time travel as we understand it again in Einstein's universe. Okay. For me personally, this just strikes a really interesting note because there is no data that suggests that we can't do this. I know it sounds speculative and pseudoscience-y like and metaphysical shit, but it's just, we may just be limited in our understanding of the metaphysical and of science and the human neuroscience and the brain. Who knows in 100, 200, 300 years? Maybe we have a much better understanding, hopefully we have, if we're still around, a much better understanding of the human brain and a much better understanding of how humans process the idea or the concept of time, that we get to a point that we can actually do this. Actually travel consciously or send our consciousness back through time or forward in time. That would be wild. So just based on the idea of how this could be accomplished or how cool this sounds. Yeah, I know, and a technological time travel machine sounds amazing too. But this just seems like, to me personally, I wouldn't say easier, but I definitely like it. It's a different way of achieving time travel. And for that reason, I am putting this one, or this movie, The Jacket, at the top of our time travel elements in horror, at the top of the list as number one. Okay, so this has been our top time travel elements in horror movies. Billy, what do you think? I mean, that's a really interesting list. And, you never really know. You're absolutely right. I think, whenever we think about time travel, most of humanity conceives the idea of time travel as, some sort of physical action that you must partake in. But again, the laws of physics, sort of right now, as we understand them, they negate the possibility of actually traveling to the past. Now, time travel to the future physically is definitely possible. So maybe it's also something that is mentally achievable. We just never really have invested the resources into neuroscience to explore these concepts because, I don't know, maybe humanity is just not prepared for for the possibility of someone being able to do that. And again, maybe somebody, governments or institutions are actively trying to accomplish this today, and the study's being done. We don't really know, but yeah, I definitely agree with this list. I think it was cool and really interesting. And anyway, this has been another exciting episode of Billy's Reddit Beat Time Travel and Horror Movies Review Shop. And now back to you, Rick. Okay. Time travel thing, whatever you just said. Anyway, I think that's going to be it for this one. What an exciting episode for me personally. I really enjoyed it. If you're still here for some reason, you are still listening to us, and here our craziest episode of the year of the season, our 88th episode, if I'm not mistaken. Woo! Where we finally talked about time travel. Thank you for joining us once again. We appreciate you being here. If you like any of the crazy shit that we talk about on this show, and you think somebody you know might enjoy some of this weird shit that we like to talk about, we do funny stuff here, we do improv, we talk about science, let them know. We always appreciate people sharing information with other people and letting them know of our little show here. Anyway, I've rambled on enough. Thank you so much for joining us tonight, and we hope you will see or catch us again on another exciting episode of Rick's Horror Movie Review Show, Rick's Rated R Horror Movie Review Show. We'll catch you again next time.